Alrighty. I know we had a chance to.
Oh boy, the election,
Yes.
2024.
Get it off
What
your
a
chest.
year!
What a year.
It's off.
I'm just tired of the robocalls and the spam and the mail, the letters coming in the mail. Just everyone bombarding you for your attention. That election cycle, which used to, I feel like it was like a year and a half, but now it's like 3 years of campaigning for 1 year of silence, and then another 3 years of just people beating you up to try to get your vote.
Well, 2024 was a year to remember. It seems like the Republican Party won the House of Representatives by a narrow margin, the Senate by over, for the first time in a long time, a good about at least 5, 6 over right now, roughly. And then we have also
Popular vote?
the POTUS, yes, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, have come in now, and he, by golly, is the resounding both popular vote and the electoral college vote winner of the highest seat in the land.
Some would say clean sweep, and they already have a sitting majority in the Supreme Court.
But my question to you, my son, is who do you think won the election?
Won this
It
election.
seems quite obvious, but who do you think won the election?
It's definitely obvious that the Republicans / conservatives, whatever you want to call them, the Trumpians. I know there's a lot of names out there, but America First movement, they won this election pretty. I won't say easily, but they definitely won to the naked eye.
Well, you know, years ago,
I know I'm being set up for something because they don't. It's just a little too easy.
Oh boy, get ready, because years ago, I used to have my students in my AP American History class to debate who won the Civil War. Did the South win the Civil War, or did the North win the Civil War?
Mm-hmm.
And the history books would say that the North won the Civil War because Robert E. Lee pretty much surrendered at Appomattox, and Ulysses Grant was the victor. And then America laid down their plows, they laid down their weapons, and they came together, and America kind of formulated its government again. That the radical Republicans who wanted to put those radical generals and the Southerners who wanted to break it from the Union illegally, wanted to put them in prison and have them executed for treason. But other more moderate Republicans said, no, we can't do that. We must heal the nation. But
feels very familiar.
yes, we must come together, reconcile, to bring peace back into the land. But the issue that caused the Civil War in the first place was about those people of color. Yes, of African descent. By golly. It was an economic battle over the Civil War, that is, but economic based on slaves, cheap labor, and also property. And these issues were a big issue of divide for the South, but also for the North. And the North technically did win the war, but the South actually won because within 7 years after the war ended, the South was back in power again. The Freedmen's Bureau was removed from the South. All right. The slaves are now unprotected. The federal troops removed from the South. And the South really put in place a system that was so heinous, Jim Crow, and the laws were so detrimental to blacks who were no longer property. But now they were just free people. And they were lynched, murdered legally, according to United States Supreme Court, U.S. versus Cruikshank, 1876.
Which is crazy because some of that blueprint was used even by Hitler later on.
That a black male and black female and blacks could be hanged in America as long and lynched and murdered by mob, by individuals, as long as the state itself did not commit the act. And this was the sad epitaph of how the South won the Civil War. Because it did not end until 1970. I was in college when the Civil War actually ended, and they ended the Civil Rights Movement. It lasted another 100 years to resolve the issue about people of color. And so I would say this most recent election.
So do you think they won it, or do you think they just slowly lost?
They won it because within a few years they was back in power and never gave up that power until Eisenhower would send 3,000 members from the U.S. military to bring 9 black students to go to Little Rock, Arkansas. Little Rock High School, there in Arkansas. There. So what we have is Central High School there, and then you have all the other situations of Ross Barnett, and you have in Mississippi and Maddox in Georgia, and Governor Allen there in Virginia, who closed on all the schools. I think in 1956, nobody can go to school. The last stance of the Civil War. They keep these races separate. It's amazing. So I said the South won the Civil War, not the North. The North did not get a hand out of it until 100 years later, when we finally got everything, blacks and whites, everybody working together.
So when did America finally win the Civil War?
1975.
Okay, yeah, you sound a very specific date.
Well, that was 21 years after Brown versus Board of Education, 1954. And that's when all of the fight, North Hurrah, and everything else in the march, and the protests, and the bombings, and the bombing ham, and everything else was going on. Finally settled down.
Okay.
That's how we finally work this out. I would say the same is applicable to today. Because the seeds that has been planted. You see, in war and combat, especially when you deal with war, dystopian war, controlling the mass of people, where you want to gradually change people, you take 3 steps forward, 3, and then 2 steps back. You're always advancing 1.
And you're giving the illusion
that you won the battle, but you're always advancing 1. You're not really winning the battle. Okay, and so the Biden administration they most recently did something phenomenally, combined also with the Obama administration prior. It was 4 steps forward, only 1 back. They shoved it down your nose. It was abuse, domestic violence abuse of the American people. What do I mean by that? When you have sanctuary cities and illegal aliens killing Americans, and politicians and mayors and governors are supported, who all should be charged with treason and should also be charged if I were their family, I would sue them.
Yeah.
All right. For number 1, for derelict of duty. For number 2, violating the oath of office. And number 3, probably even ask Congress to sue them, charge them with treason.
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of that over the next, at least a lot of attempts. I'm not sure how successful
Well,
many of them are going to be.
What happened to them? What happened to the Southern Democrats at the end? I don't know what's going to happen.
Eased off.
But they're already saying they're going to resist.
Well,
already saying.
Time will tell. Time will tell. All right. Sorry. Continue on.
With mass illegal immigration and bringing in criminals in America, we have the Biden administration and the Obama administration funding Iran, who indiscriminately supported Hezbollah, Hamas, and all the other terrorist groups throughout the Middle East. And then also bring them here to our borders. Bring in over 45,000 Chinese nationalists. God knows how many Russians and other members of terrorist groups are already here as sleeper cells and working ready to private launch an attack. They have not made their last stance yet. You see, what we have also is allowing illegal aliens come in to take over your home, squatting, and you can't get them out of your homes.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how. I mean, how affront can you be an American people would tolerate that? Where they're taking your tax dollars, right, and paying food, homing, support, transportation, all that they need, housing, and American citizens are not getting nothing, and they're blamed for getting welfare assistance and support when they give illegal to people who aren't supposed to be here.
Now, you just brought up only a couple examples, enough of which are egregious enough to, I mean, if we went to war with another country, I'm talking about the Revolutionary War, over some taxes, which by comparison is nothing compared to what we have currently going on.
Minuscule.
It is surprising that so many people
tolerated that.
Yeah,
justified it.
Just because the group that brought it to the voting block or attempted it just so happened to align with their political affiliation, and it taking full advantage of
incomprehensible.
Anyone with a blue check mark next to the name or the donkey symbol. I don't know. To me, that is probably the most egregious thing, because people they're literally getting slapped in the face and they're asking for another slap.
That's like being in an abusive relationship and you stay there and you go back with your abusive lover. I mean, this is heinous, all right? Or when you have people destroying businesses, burning down business, snatch and grab, come in there and you don't even prosecute because
yeah.
it's destroying your businesses and your city officials, and yet you vote these same people back in office? I'd like to compare this to Republicans and Democratic socialist mafia political leaders
Mhm.
who are still in office. I'm talking about the Pelosi's. I'm talking about Schumer's. I'm talking about Nader. I'm
The
talking
squad.
about I'm talking about the leaders in
AOC,
the House and the Senate.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Adam Schiff. All these what they did in the previous two administrations,
Mm-hmm.
all
Criminal.
treasonous and criminal.
Legitimately.
All right, and but yet let the Southern generals, they're still there.
Mm-hmm.
But see what happens to them. This domestic abuse of the American people. I guess they want to see how far they can go, and they went a long way.
Well, there's a point where once you've broken the law, and you know you've broken the law, and you know you're potentially up for punishment of some sort. You should be, at least. At this point, you might as well go all in, just because you know you're. It's almost like Satan. He knows he has but a short time. He's gonna wreak havoc as best he can those last 3.5 years before the Lord brings the whole operation down. I know it's kind of comparing apples and oranges to a certain degree, but it's that same mindset of, I've already gotten away with one thing. I know my demise is imminent, and let me bring down the ship and try to push the agenda as far as I can, and hope that I get off later on.
Or is there is no demise, is not imminent, because if Hegelian dialectic model, if you have the pipers playing both sides, controlling both sides, either way they win, because the goal is to create a new world order.
Well, that's a larger, yeah. When I say demise, I mean career. Your career may be sacrificed, but you'll leave with padded pockets, and you may or may not face jail time. But the overall goal, the overall
they reward
mission,
the criminals. It's called the criminal syndicate, and they do that at the expense of the American people, and who are blindly following political parties, who are voting for parties and not for what? Policy. Yeah, by issues.
The biggest mistake of the American
and everything we discussed here were policies.
Mhm.
It had nothing to do with a party. All right. And it's an abusive type relationship. With that being said, the biggest issue about this political party was in the loss, obviously Republican loss in this respect. In the past, 12 years, eight plus 4, Obama, and then also and then add Biden and Harris together. What we have there is that the children. Lenin said, "Give me your children, and in one generation, I would change the world."
King David said pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, he said, "Let your children be fatherless, and I will destroy your nation." And they've done both. So give me your children and destroy the fathers. I will destroy your nation. If this is true, both for Lenin, the Vladimir Lenin, the founder, they're good, the first communist leader there in Russia. And then you have also from here, our current situation in America, our socialist communist leaders, the View, you mentioned that there, others, the Squad, the Squad is on ALC, all those as well. They're all part of the communist agenda to establish a new world order. Talking about Warren, we're talking about many of the House and the Senate, all these individuals, they have the children. Let's look at students and adults who think they're furries, right? Our society telling us today that we should treat them as human, that they're okay. Our society telling us in America that normal is abnormal, psychotic is okay, erotic is proper, and also other forms of sexual perversions that children taught down to even at the elementary school level, from all type of hormone treatment, sexual mutilations, all these things are part of an agenda you call eugenics, population control. All the things are going on systematically to destroy America. The woke policies of the previous administration, while we're teaching our children be concerned about being furries, all right, or be bogged down with pronouns, trying to figure out their identity, trying to discover whether or not they're human or half animal, etc., etc. Let's take a quick look at what the Chinese are teaching their children and how vulnerable we are if attacked by another country with sleeper cells in this country. How vulnerable are we? Let's take a little quick moment and see what they teach their children.
准备好了没有？我思考了很快的，我都可。中华要灭亡！我们先上卡萨尼，上到这个，你们
那你长大了想干什么呢？
杀日本，消灭活人啊！有一回我恨得流鼻血。
Something very, very, very scary is going down in China right now, and I can't for the life of me figure out why nobody in the West is talking about this.
I wanted to be able to actually like wear, from head to toe, look exactly like I do sort of in my head.
Courtney is a furry, one of a growing number of people who believe that they are part human, part animal. Yet he's far from alone. He's just one of up to 1 million people worldwide who belong to the furry fandom.
You think you're furry, you feel like you're furry, you're a furry. Like any other subculture, we come together because we have this common interest.
Eric belongs to Courtney's local fandom. His fursona is a hybrid fox, dragon, and plant called alkane.
I feel like a lot of social barriers that I don't like have been removed. So I get to have a lot more fun without people thinking I'm weird or strange, because I'm already weird and strange. I'm not in the closet, so to speak. I keep alkane in my closet, but that's about it.
Research suggests that up to 85% of furries believe they're not entirely human.
As you can see, they are preparing their children to annihilate us, while at the same time, our children are pretty much basically being prepared with hormone blockers, thinking that they're furries and thinking that they're animals, thinking they're marrying themselves, called sologamy. They're
Distracted by pleasures of this world.
narcissistic,
Idle time.
stuck on the social media, control manipulated. Our academic scores are plummeting right now, and other nations around the world, academic scores are skyrocketing.
Oh, and to top it off, America has a negative birth rate.
Negative, really?
Yeah, from 2022 to 2023, as of recently, we have a negative birth rate in the country. And let me see if we can find this here. The number of births in the U.S. decreased by 2%, and the general fertility rate dropped by 3%. This is in 2022 and 2023. And then in 2024, the number of births decreased by 3% from 2022. So basically, they're down.
It's decreased, but it's not negative. Negative means they don't have enough to replace the current population, and so
Well, based on the current trend, it's a legit negative birth rate.
heading towards that direction.
Yeah.
It is decreasing, but Japan has a negative birth rate, whereby which more people are actually dying than
Yes,
being
than being
born.
born.
Right. So we don't have that yet. But one thing I can say is that
We will soon.
well, they have a replacement right now. That's all the illegals coming in to
Mhm.
replace the Americans, and also change our whole demographic of population, and also cultures and race, etc. That's happened in Europe, Germany, France, every European country, and in America. That is part of the globalist plan as well. I won't go into that right now, but I'm saying who actually won the election. I will say that these things has been planted in our children and some of their parents will be with us for generations to come.
Oh, yeah.
This battle is not over.
Well, there's
all right?
there's the immediate impact, and then there's this dormant,
Systemic.
sleeping giant that's gonna. It's you're already seeing bits and pieces of it now, but once it fully manifests itself, a couple, I don't know, 5-10 years from now, you'll really start to see. I mean, we're already seeing anyone with a shred of common sense seems to be on their way out the door as far as longevity of life is concerned. They're in their 50s and 60s, and the baby boomers, millennials, and then as the generations progressively get younger, they just get more and more depraved. And unfortunately, those are going to be tomorrow's leaders, and they're going to be the ones setting the agendas. They've already been raised in a terrible culture. I mean, you think back to when you were a kid, the stuff you could watch on TV versus the things my kids can watch on TV, or not can watch, but are exposed
Have
to.
access to.
Yeah. It's night and day. You couldn't have two people sleeping in the
Totally.
same bed even if they were married. The Leave It to Beaver days, and that wasn't
I
that
love
long ago.
Lucy and everything else, and Star Trek, the first of Black Members and Kids. All these things are
Yeah.
very, the things, moral degradation that's taking place.
Mhm.
But let's take a look right now of adults, at least 2 generations, maybe even 3 generations. All right, X, Y, and Z.
All right.
The 3 generations. Look at furries. Look at these kids here, adults, by the way, and children who have problems in elementary school. They have to refer to these children by their furry demonic names. Yes, the individuals believe that their alter egos or spirits in them, things in them, cause them to behave and act such a way, and they will make this psychotic status the norm for America, to have us caught up in this. What is the idea of the king have no clothes? Everybody must agree the king have no clothes. To caught up in this global, or at least in this nationalistic psychosis that everybody's crazy. So you got to acknowledge that we're just another one of the crazy icons walking around on 2 legs.
Join in on their delusion.
Yeah, and we all delusion with them. As you can see, adults leading the way and their children, all right, for the next generation. So if we're going to actually change the 2024 election, we got to look at addressing the ills of our nation and look at the psychological derangement that is going on, cast off as normality. We have right here, I'm looking at right now, it's a possible sabotage of our nation, every way, shape, form, and fashion, by mental derangement, and number 2, by having our enemies and their children prepared to come to invade us, and we'll be utterly defenseless because our children are worried about licking their paws.
Thank God it's not a majority, but it's enough. It's enough. It's demanding resources. It's taken away from teachers whose main responsibility is just to educate in the classroom. Now they have to play along with these children's fantasies and deal with the parents who refuse to be parents, to show them what's normal, what's considered sane.
The Trump administration, there was a total economic blockage of his advancements because of a global pandemic. Everything was shut down. But right now, we're looking at the shutdown of America, perhaps. Somewhere during his administration now, with these psychological things going on, the continued rise for the next election cycle. You said 3 years, it starts all over again in about a year for who's going to be the next one running for president after he leaves. We're going to look also at the Trojan horse syndrome of having all of our American enemies being brought here to sabotage this nation, China in particular, Russia as well, as we become very, very forceful in addressing some of the aggressions around the world. They may also have released their sleeper cells in America to counteract what's going on here. So we may look for some very interesting things for the next couple of years. So the Democratic Party is not yet finished. Their method of dealing with situation, they tried to assassinate Trump twice. They tried to remove him from office. They tried to not have him run. They tried to put him in jail. They have a 93 charge brought against him. They
Got to reduce to 34.
They tried to bankrupt him. All of these things. So it would not put it far from me that the globalists, what sides that are factioning, that are fighting one another, are moving ultimately. It doesn't matter who wins, Democrat, Republican. The ultimate goal is to destroy America and to set up their new world order. And our Constitution must be destroyed in order for that to happen, to abolish the rule of law in this country. We are the last standing country, the only free country in the world that can stop it. So I pray that the American people will no longer vote for a party, but the American people begin to look at policies.
I think they got the message this time around.
You think so?
It's probably a little too late, to be perfectly honest. Okay. I think the damage that needed to be done was done. I think we've, just as we did.
You think they really woke up?
Enough people woke up, but it's too late. The problem. I think 9/11 was a great example of, you give the feeling of terror to enough people, and you can take whatever liberties you want through the 9/11 Commission kind of revealed what took place. A lot of it, all the important stuff was redacted, but out of that 9/11 incident, we got the government got access to fully monitor people's behaviors, what they do on the internet. We just gave up too much power, and they've taken it to their full advantage now. And I think this past 4 years or so has been a larger version of even what took place on 9/11. We've given up a lot of power, be it through COVID, be it through just complete injustices. be it through picking and choosing courts to fight certain battles and being selective about lawfare versus like true legal battles. I think they've worked against people actively. January 6th, for all the people who truly committed crimes on that day, the overreach by the government, the amount of
You mean all the government infiltrate 23
Yes.
agents that were put in there to create
Just
and
a-
stir them up?
just a
It
trap.
was all a false flag.
Set
It was
up.
all set up by the government.
Absolutely.
All set up.
I mean, and we're starting to understand more and more about it now. I'm sure we will learn a lot more once
Right.
Trump is back in office.
And the
but-
FBI finally revealed his cards, and the other agencies as well that all participated and
Yeah.
created the whole thing.
and people's eyes will be open, they'll be enlightened. But again,
And
to your
so
point,
nobody's going to do anything about it.
or it'll still be too late because the important damage has already been done to the infrastructure, to homes, to the culture. I mean, look at how disrupted the Black society has become, how corrupt it's become, just because of a few key decisions made in the 50s and 60s and under a few select presidents. The abortion movement being allowed to thrive where it did, and how that undermined the Black community, and unfortunately the Black home. And now we're paying the price for it. You talk about the same people ransacking, stores, and the complete lawlessness that you see in certain cities, Chicago's, the all over California,
Oregon,
you name it, Seattle. It's a problem. But
Wisconsin.
yeah, it's complete lawlessness, and you just undermine the home. That's all it takes. But I see America functioning the same way that dysfunctional home is functioning currently. I think we'll see that at a macro level years from now.
So, in a nutshell, the things so the Republicans won House and Senate. The Republicans won also the White House. However,
Don't forget
have we
Court.
really gained our country? That's a big question. And has American eyes really been awakened? And it is enough people want to bring about systemic changes to put term limits on the senators, and then maybe have the members of the House of Representatives serve for 4 years rather than 2, so that they'll be bribed every time they get elected. They got to start running for office again every 2 years. So make some systemic changes there or whatever. But I'm looking also at the giving your liberties. If we look at mass immigration and kicking all these people out, then how they going to determine who's illegal and legal? We're talking about a mass form of maybe Indian national identification system.
You talking about mass deportation?
Deportation, identification, tracking of everybody's activities, so the surveillance like do in China to see who's here. I mean, even though it's a good thing to do that there, put your borders, seal your borders. But if you seal your borders and build a wall, well, it's to stop people from coming in, but also stop people from leaving as well. So what type of America are we looking at? Who really gained? Did the Democrat Republicans, or are they just both a shell for the globalists that they prepare for the new world order, maybe manipulating both sides? I don't know.
Well, the obvious answer is not to just throw your hands up and say, "Hey, I know what the Book of Revelation says about the world, and I know how it all is going to end."
It's going to happen.
I know a lot of Christians who legitimately have that mindset. It's not for me to control. I don't care one way or another. I'm just going to take care of myself.
They will care.
Yeah,
and they won't be
they'll
able to take care of themselves. They won't be able to.
Exactly.
Right? They better take care of themselves during COVID, getting food and supplies and everything else.
Which, as an aside, that was a test that I feel like a lot of Christians failed. We can talk about that. That could probably be a whole nother episode in and of itself. But I do think the way people responded to that COVID crisis was a real test on how people,
where they stood in their faith,
how they receive information, how they process it, what they do with it, how they make it function in their worlds. And I would say a majority of people, mostly Christians, are the ones that I'm the most disappointed in.
They're yet to be determined. Remember, the South, it was many years after the Civil War that things were determined. It was 1876 that the U.S. Supreme Court ruled, U.S. versus Cruikshank, that blacks can be lynched. We'll see what happens after Trump's next election, after he's out of office 4 years. Hopefully he can get through successfully without any mayhem created by the other party or anybody else. Who won the 2024 election? I would say the verdict is still out. We will see. Give us about 10 years. In the meantime, pray for our nation, pray for one another, be encouraged, because the Lord knows exactly like what's going on, because the script is written and it's going to be fulfilled.